speaker view.
On the not on the Zoom but on the YouTube. So we are doing it, Deepak ji and me, we are doing it. So just to inform everybody that we are doing.
I can wait. I can wait. I can wait.
Sir,
I can wait.
Sir, only it is about the video, not other things. So
okay. Okay. Now listen to me. First, I told you non-resident one who is not a resident in India. Now I'll tell you what is a resident in India. Then only you will come to know who is non-resident. Section 6 talks about individual. Individual is said to be resident in India if he has been in India for a previous year. And if he does not satisfy this condition, in the 4 preceding previous year, he had been in India for 365 days or more. And in the relevant previous year, he was in India for 60 days. Remember, this is there. But there is an explanation added under section 6(1). An explanation clause A says, in any previous year for employment abroad, the period of 60 days in condition number 2 shall be substituted by 182 days. Meaning thereby, he can leave India after 181 days in the year when he leaves for employment abroad. He will be called non-resident. He will be called non-resident because he is not here for 182 days. Second condition, they say 60 substituted by 180. इसी तरह और भी है. A member of a crew of an Indian ship who sails with the ship, who sails with the ship, in his case also, the period of 60 days shall be substituted by 182 days. That means if he is here for 181 days in Indian waters, doesn't matter, he is non-resident in India. Now this is for going from India. Now coming to clause B, ये मैं पुराना बता रहा हूँ, फिर मैं बाद में दोनों change करूँगा. Clause B of explanation. In case of a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin who is outside India, comes for a visit to India, the period of 60 days in condition number 2 shall be substituted by 182 days. मतलब क्या होता था? अगर आप citizen हैं और person of Indian origin है, you could come to India for 181 days. Even if you are here 182 days, वो तो पहली condition is satisfy हो जाती है. फिर उसमें कौन सी देखनी है? Second condition. The second condition was almost not applicable because of the amendment in Finance Act 2020. 2 amendment आई हैं. पहले तो amendment resident की सुन लीजिए. पुराना भी है और ऐड भी कर दिया. सुनिए, मैं रिपीट कर रहा हूं ना. न्यू क्लॉज बी, इन केस ऑफ citizen of India or a person of Indian origin who is outside India comes to India for a visit, the period of 60 days in condition number 2 shall be substituted by 182 days. ये तो पुराना ही है, ये है अभी भी. In case of a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin whose total income, are excluding income from foreign source, whose total income excluding income from foreign source exceeds 15 lakh, 15 lakh, exceeds 15 lakh, the period of 60 days. So please, if your total income excluding income from foreign source does not exceed 15 lakh in the previous year, you can come to India for 181 days. You will be called non-resident. But the moment you are here for 182 days, you will be called a resident. But if your total income, excluding income from foreign source, exceeds 15 lakh, और आप इंडिया आना चाहते हैं, तो 120 days रहिए. और पिछले 4 सालों में अगर 365 दिन है, तो you can come to India for 119 days. तो आप non-resident होंगे. The moment you are here for 120 days, अब रेजिडेंट बन जाएंगे. लेकिन आपने पूछा टोटल इनकम एक्सक्लूडिंग इनकम फ्रॉम फॉरेन सोर्स का क्या मतलब है? टोटल इनकम मीनिंग यहां पर वही है. दोबारा सुनिए, कौन सी? रिसीव्ड इन इंडिया और डीम्ड टू बी रिसीव्ड इन इंडिया, अक्रू और राइज इन इंडिया और डीम्ड टू अक्रू और राइज इन इंडिया. और इनकम फ्रॉम फॉरेन सोर्स में लिखा है कि वो जो अक्रू और राइज आउटसाइड इंडिया है, उसमें से ये 2 इनकम छोड़ दीजिए, वो लेनी है. कौन सी? इनकम ऑफ ए बिजनेस विच इज आउटसाइड इंडिया but controlled from India, or income of a profession which is outside India set up in India. अरे वो जो नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट में मैंने कहा था बिल्कुल वही कर दिया कि देखिए अगर आपकी इनकम 15 लाख से ज्यादा है और 15 लाख लेते हुए क्या लेना है, इंडियन इनकम तो लेनी है, इनकम रिसीव्ड इंडिया, डीम्ड टू बी रिसीव्ड, अक्रू और अक्राइज और डीम्ड टू अक्राइज, दो और इनकम लेनी, फॉरेन इनकम नहीं लेनी, इनकम फ्रॉम फॉरेन सोर्स नहीं लेना, लेकिन दो लेनी है. नंबर वन, इनकम ऑफ ए बिजनेस आउटसाइड इंडिया बट कंट्रोल्ड फ्रॉम इंडिया, और इनकम ऑफ प्रोफेशन आउटसाइड इंडिया विच इज सेटअप इन इंडिया, ये लेना है. तो 119 दिन आए तो नॉन रेजिडेंट, 120 दिन आए तो रेजिडेंट हो गए. 120 में रेजिडेंट, 119 दिन आए तो नॉन रेजिडेंट. याद रखिए कि अगर सपोज कीजिए एक लॉयर है जो इंडिया में प्रैक्टिस कर रहा है और वो प्रैक्टिस कर रहा है, उसका प्रोफेशन यहां पर है, वो बार काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया में रजिस्टर्ड है और यहां प्रैक्टिस करता है, वो बाहर भी प्रैक्टिस करता है, वो बाहर भी केसेस रिप्रेजेंट करता है. अब इस केस में वो अगर बाहर रहता है, कई लोग बाहर रहने लग गए, आप कल नॉन रेजिडेंट बनना चाहते हैं क्योंकि उनको बाहर फिर इंडियन का फिर एडवांटेज मिलता है. अगर वो बाहर रहता है तो प्लीज नोट उसकी इंडियन इनकम और प्लस जो वो जो फॉरेन का जो प्रोफेशन जो सेटअप इन इंडिया था वो मिलाकर अगर 15 लाख से ज्यादा है तो 119 दिन ही आ सकता है, और 15 लाख से ज्यादा नहीं है तो 181 डेज आ सकता था. 15 लाख से ज्यादा है तो 119 दिन ही आएगा, 120 दिन आएगा तो रेजिडेंट हो जाएगा. अब फिर आऊंगा इसके ऊपर, वापस जाते हैं. अब आया 61A, ये एक नया कॉन्सेप्ट डाला है. कल अविनाश जी आपको समझा रहे थे कि हमारा जो टैक्सेशन सिस्टम है एक टेरिटोरियल बेस्ड सिस्टम है, एक रेजिडेंट बेस्ड सिस्टम है, और तीसरा एक नया अमेरिका ने निकाला, अमेरिका तो निकालते ही रहता है, सिटीजन बेस्ड सिस्टम है कि इफ यू आर ए सिटीजन ऑफ अमेरिका और यू आर होल्डिंग ग्रीन कार्ड ऑफ अमेरिका, यू विल बी ट्रीटेड एज डीम्ड रेजिडेंट ऑफ अमेरिका. अमेरिका कहता है आपको पूरी ग्लोबल इनकम पे टैक्स देना है, चाहे अमेरिका में आप एक दिन भी अमेरिका नहीं रहो तो भी ग्लोबल इनकम पे देना है. अगर ये अमेरिका ने लॉ बना रखा है, कल बताया समझाया था बहुत डिटेल में, ऐसा हमने भी कॉपी कर लिया है, हमने भी कुछ नई चीज डाली है, लेकिन थोड़ा लिबरल है हम अमेरिका की जरा सख्त नहीं है. आइए क्या डाला 61A. अब मैं पुराना नहीं ले रहा जो फाइनेंस बिल में गया था, भूल जाओ उसको. जो नया डाला वो अमेंडमेंट में मैंने सारा बताया था, जो नया आया वो सुन लीजिए. नॉट विद स्टैंडिंग एनीथिंग कंटेन अंडर 61. कहता 61 में जो मर्जी लिखा हो, 182 डेज, 60 डेज, या वो एक्सप्लेनेशन भी है 181 दिन, 182 दिन, 120 दिन, भूल जाओ, हमें वो नहीं देखना. नॉट विद स्टैंडिंग का मतलब ही यही होता है, notwithstanding anything contained under 61, a citizen of India shall be deemed to be a resident in India if he has total income, excluding the income from foreign source, exceeding 15 lakh, and he is not liable to pay tax in foreign country or foreign territory by reason of his residence, domicile, or criteria of similar nature. क्या कहा? अगर आप कहीं बाहर कंट्री में रहते हैं जहां टैक्स नहीं देना है, एग्जेम्प्ट है ही नहीं, या है ही नहीं, जैसे केमन आइलैंड में है, बरमूडा में है, बहामा में है, लीजिए गल्फ में है, यूएई में है, कुवैत में है, आप मस्कट में है, ओमान में है, आप बहरीन में है, आप दोहा में है, वहां टैक्स नहीं लगता. If you are not liable to pay tax there, and if your total income, including दो income, कौन सी दो income? In a business outside India, control from India. किसका business? Individual है तो sole proprietor ही होगा ना. Outside India, control from India. Profession outside India, set up in India. ये मिलाकर और इंडियन इनकम मिलाकर 15 से ज्यादा है तो वो इंडिया एक दिन भी ना आए, डीम्ड रेजिडेंट हो जाएगा. एक दिन भी ना आए, डीम्ड रेजिडेंट हो जाएगा. अगर 15 से ज्यादा नहीं है और बाहर टैक्स नहीं दे रहा, तब तो 181 डेज आ सकता है, क्योंकि बाहर टैक्स नहीं दे रहा. लेकिन प्लीज क्योंकि वो डीम्ड है। लेकिन रुकिए, उस केस में वो 6(1) की वो जो एक्सप्लेनेशन दे रखी थी वो वहां पर पहुंच जाएगा, वहां तो 119 डेज हो जाएगा। ज्यादा अगर 15 से ज्यादा है तो है ना, 15 से कम है तो वहां जाता नहीं है, तो यहाँ 181 डेज आ जाएगा, इवन इफ ही डजंट पे टैक्स आउटसाइड। द मोमेंट ही इज पेइंग टैक्स आउटसाइड इंडिया तो 120 डेज 119 डेज आ सकता है। लेकिन अगर वो बाहर टैक्स नहीं दे रहा और इंडियन इनकम 15 से ज्यादा है तो 6(1)(a) में आ जाएगा। इंडिया एक दिन भी ना आए, वो डीम्ड रेजिडेंट हो जाए, डीम्ड रेजिडेंट हो जाए। घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि मुझे अभी नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट भी बताना है, तभी मैं नॉन रेजिडेंट पे आऊं। आइए, अब नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट सेक्शन 6(6) में लिखा है। पहले तो इंडिविजुअल का ही कर रहा हूं अभी तो, और कंपनी का भी करना है। नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट 6(6) में लिखा है, वो लिखा है इंडिविजुअल हु इज रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया शैल बी डीम्ड टू बी नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया। अगर इस साल का रेजिडेंट है पर नॉट ऑर्डिनरी माना जाएगा इफ इन द पास्ट 10 प्रीसीडिंग प्रीवियस ईयर ही वाज नॉन रेजिडेंट इन 9 आउट ऑफ 10 प्रीवियस। He was non-resident in 9 out of 10 previous year. In past, he will become non-resident. Or in the past 7 preceding previous year, he was in India for not more than 729 days. तो भी not ordinary माना जाएगा। अरे को पता है not ordinary मानने से क्या होता है? फॉरेन इनकम टैक्स नहीं लगती, सिर्फ 2 फॉरेन इनकम टैक्स लगती है। इनकम ऑफ ए बिजनेस आउटसाइड इंडिया, कंट्रोल्ड फ्रॉम इंडिया, इनकम ऑफ ए प्रोफेशन आउटसाइड इंडिया, सेटअप इन इंडिया। बाकी फॉरेन इनकम पे नहीं देना पड़ेगा। अब इन्होंने क्या किया है, जो 6(1)(a) में होगा वो डीम्ड रेजिडेंट जिसकी 15 लाख से ज्यादा है और बाहर टैक्स नहीं दे रहा, उसको भी नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट माना जाए, उसको भी नॉट ऑर्डिनरी माना जाए। और तीसरा, ध्यान से सुनना, मैंने आपको बोला था आप बाहर टैक्स दे रहे हैं और आपकी बाहर इनकम और आपकी इंडियन इनकम 15 से ज्यादा इंक्लूडिंग दोज 2 सोर्सेस, तो आप 119 दिन आए तो नॉन रेजिडेंट है, 120 दिन आए तो रेजिडेंट हो जाएंगे। रुकिए, ये आदमी भी 120 डेज से 181 डेज तक आएगा तो हम उसको नॉन रेजिडेंट नहीं, नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट, रेजिडेंट नहीं कहेंगे, नॉट। तो नॉन रेजिडेंट कब होगा? अगर 15 से कम है तो 181 डेज आ जाए तो भी नॉन रेजिडेंट, 15 से ज्यादा है 119 डेज आए तो नॉन, नहीं तो नॉट ऑर्डिनरी हो जाए। आपको पता है 120 से 181 नॉट। और उधर भी बता दिया मैंने, डीम्ड रेजिडेंट वो नॉन रेजिडेंट कभी माना ही नहीं जाएगा, वो तो नॉट ऑर्डिनरी माना जाएगा। ये भी कर। अब मैं आ रहा हूं, नॉन रेजिडेंट कौन होगा? इंडिविजुअल। इंडिविजुअल सेट टू बी नॉन रेजिडेंट इंडिया इफ इज नॉट ए रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया। रेजिडेंट नहीं है तो नॉन रेजिडेंट हो गया। अब आया 6(2), हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली। Hindu undivided family shall be deemed to be resident in all cases, except when the karta or the manager of the HUF is wholly outside India. अगर वो पूरे साल outside India तो बात अलग है। If the karta is in India for partly or wholly, तो वो कंट्रोल देते हैं HUF को, कर्ता कंट्रोल करता है। वो अगर वो पार्टली और कॉर्डली करेगा तो उधर। अब आया, a company is said to be resident in India if it is an Indian company. Indian company always resident है, wherever controlled, wherever happens, always resident. Indian company means one which is registered under the Indian Companies Act 1956. Oh sorry, now 2030. Sorry, हमें पुरानी आते पड़ी, पुराने लोग पुरानी बातें करते हैं। ठीक है, 2013 में भी हो या 56 में हो, वो इंडियन कंपनी है, तो वो इंडियन कंपनी तो हमेशा रेजिडेंट होगी, कंट्रोल। तभी तो कल अविनाश जी बता रहे थे, दुबई छोड़कर एसबीआई को पेमेंट भेजनी है, बाहर की ब्रांच से लोन लिया है या किसी भी जगह से लिया है दुबई छोड़कर, तो उस केस में टीडीएस 195 पे नहीं काटना है। उस वक्त टीडीएस वो इस पे नीचे आएगा जो मैंने आपको, और बैंक का टीडीएस कटता ही नहीं है, पता है, बैंक का टीडीएस कटता ही नहीं है, तो इसलिए वो कटेगा भी नहीं है। अब अगर आप रख दे पेमेंट देनी है, बैंक आपको देगा, तो वो तो आपको पता ही है क्यों। अगर आप पेमेंट लोन लेके बैंक से लिया है तो टीडीएस थोड़ी काटना है बैंक का। आप बैंक ने आपने बैंक में डिपॉजिट करा है तो टीडीएस होता है, आपको पता है। चलिए, अब इंडियन कंपनी हमेशा रेजिडेंट होगी। नाउ बी, इफ इट इज नॉट एन इंडियन कंपनी, तब बढ़ना, ये लैंग्वेज लिखी नहीं है, मैं बोल रहा हूं। इफ इट इज नॉट एन इंडियन कंपनी, देन द प्लेस ऑफ इट्स इफेक्टिव मैनेजमेंट, जिसे हमने बोला पोएम, शुड बी इन इंडिया। So in that previous year should be in India. Please note, इंडियन कंपनी है तो प्लेस ऑफ इफेक्टिव मैनेजमेंट देखना ही नहीं है मेरे भाई. अगर वो नॉन इंडियन कंपनी है देन इट्स प्लेस ऑफ इफेक्टिव मैनेजमेंट पोएम इन ड्यूरिंग दैट प्रीवियस ईयर शुड बी इन इंडिया. और एक्सप्लेनेशन में लिखा है व्हाट इज प्लेस ऑफ इफेक्टिव मैनेजमेंट. So place of effective management means place where managerial or commercial decisions which are relevant to the conduct of the, which are necessary for the conduct of the business of the entity, which are for the business of the entity as a whole are in substance are in India. In substance in India. आपके जो मैनेजरियल डिसीजन हो रहे हैं या कमर्शियल डिसीजन उस एंटिटी के हो रहे हैं एज ए होल वो इंडिया से हो रहे हैं तो वो पोएम इफेक्टिव मैनेजमेंट इंडिया में माना जाएगा. तो वो रेजिडेंट मानी जाएगी वो कंपनी. इफ इट इज नॉट एन इंडियन कंपनी एंड द प्लेस ऑफ एक्टिव मैनेजमेंट इज नॉट इन इंडिया देन दैट कंपनी इज कॉल्ड नॉन रेजिडेंट कंपनी. प्लीज कंपनी के केस में नॉट ऑर्डिनरी होता ही नहीं. फर्म एचयूएफ के फर्म के केस में और अदर एओपी के केस में भी नॉट ऑर्डिनरी नहीं होता. वो तो सिर्फ एचयूएफ के केस में होता है. और एचयूएफ का वही है कर्ता नॉन रेजिडेंट इन 9 out of 10 प्रीवियस ईयर. कर्ता वाज नॉट हियर फॉर 729 days. अरे छोड़ो ना उसको क्या करना. फर्म और ऑल के लिए भी लिखा है इफ विल बी डीम्ड रेजिडेंट इंडिया इफ इट इज होनली और पार्शियली कंट्रोल्ड फ्रॉम होनली और पार्शियली कंट्रोल्ड रेजिडेंट. एंड इफ नन ऑफ इफ होनली कंट्रोल्ड फ्रॉम आउटसाइड इंडिया तब नॉन रेजिडेंट. तो अब नॉन रेजिडेंट समझ में आ गया. इफ वन इंडिविजुअल हु इज नॉट रेजिडेंट नॉन रेजिडेंट इंडिविजुअल हु इज नॉट ए रेजिडेंट नॉन रेजिडेंट. 6(1) देखना है 6(1) देखना है और 6(1) के साथ एक्सप्लेनेशन भी देखनी है. नॉन रेजिडेंट 6(1) तो है ही नहीं. वो तो डीम्ड रेजिडेंट की केस है उसको तो देखना ही नहीं. 6(2) हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली अगर वो कंट्रोल होली आउटसाइड इंडिया है तब नॉन रेजिडेंट. कंपनी नॉन रेजिडेंट कब होगी जब कंपनी इज नॉट एन इंडियन कंपनी एंड इट्स पोएम प्लेस ऑफ एक्टिव मैनेजमेंट इज नॉट सिचुएटेड इन इंडिया. और बाकी एओपी फर्म विल बी व्हेन इट इज होली कंट्रोल्ड फ्रॉम आउटसाइड. पार्टनर होली होगा तो इंडिया से अगर है तो इंडिया में रेजिडेंट होगा. अब नॉन रेजिडेंट ये होता है. लेकिन 230 में एक और चीज भी लिखी है. Non-resident means who is not a resident of India, but for purpose of section 92, 93 and 190, 168, even not ordinary resident will also be called non-resident. Please, for purpose of 92, over transfer pricing, arm's length price, internal transaction at arm's length price. 93, shifting the profit to another company outside India. वो 93 है. 168 एग्जीक्यूटर अगर एग्जीक्यूटर वो नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट है उस केस में ये नॉन रेजिडेंट बनेगा. नॉन रेजिडेंट इंक्लूड्स द पर्सन हु आर 92, 93, 168. बाकी नॉन रेजिडेंट वो वाले हैं जो विच इज नॉट ए रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया. सो मैंने सेक्शन 230 में नॉन रेजिडेंट बता दिया और नॉन रेजिडेंट के स्कोप ऑफ टोटल इनकम भी बता दिया. A non-resident is liable to pay tax on income which is received in India or deemed to be received in India, income which accrue or rise in India or deemed to accrue or rise in India. That's all. He does not pay tax on income which accrue or rise outside. अब ये टैक्स देना है तो नॉन रेजिडेंट को क्या फायदे हैं सुनिए. जो 31 मार्च 2020 से पहले था प्रीवियस ईयर 19-20 उस केस में तो नॉन रेजिडेंट को एग्जेम्पशन मिलती थी इंडिविजुअल को और एचयूएफ को 2,50,000. 2,50,000 ऑफ द टोटल इनकम डज नॉट एक्सीड 2,50,000. मैं आपको बता रहा हूं. और बाकी पे सेम स्लैब रेट है जो स्लैब रेट इंडिविजुअल का था. कोई फर्क नहीं था क्योंकि सीनियर सिटीजन को जो 3 लाख है वो तो रेजिडेंट हो तो ही 3 लाख माना जाता है. सीनियर सिटीजन जो 80 से ऊपर है वो भी रेजिडेंट हो तो ही तो 5 लाख माना जाता है. नॉन रेजिडेंट सीनियर सिटीजन हो ही नहीं सकता हमारी डेफिनेशन में. सीनियर सिटीजन इज हु इज अबाउट 60 ईयर ओल्ड एंड रेजिडेंट इन रेजिडेंट. ये तो रेजिडेंट है ही नहीं. सो सीनियर सिटीजन वाला कोई कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है. लेकिन जो नया रेजिम आया है 115 BAA में उसमें तो रेजिडेंट हो या नॉन रेजिडेंट हो 60 साल से ऊपर हो या 60 साल से नीचे हो एग्जेम्पशन लिमिट 2.5 लाख ही है, 3 और 5 गई 2.5 लाख ही है, और फर्स्ट नेक्स्ट 5 लाख 20 नेक्स्ट 2.50 5 लाख, नेक्स्ट 2.50 लाख 10%, नेक्स्ट 2.50 15%, नेक्स्ट 2.50 20%, नेक्स्ट 2.50 25%, अबव 15 लाख 30%, ये सबके लिए है, चाहे आप रेजिडेंट हो चाहे आप नॉन रेजिडेंट हो, ये टैक्सेबल है। कंपनी के लिए भी तो टैक्सेबल है। अभी मैं नॉर्मल रेट बता रहा हूं, अभी स्पेशल रेट बताऊंगा। कंपनी के लिए रेट 40% है, और उसके लिए सरचार्ज भी है। if the total income of the company exceeds 1 crore, non-resident foreign company exceeds 1 crore, तो सरचार्ज 2% है। It exceeds 10 crore, तो सरचार्ज 5% है। अदरवाइज 40% है इन केस ऑफ ए कंपनी, नॉन रेजिडेंट कंपनी की बात कर रहा हूं। फर्म के लिए तो है ही 30, चाहे रेजिडेंट हो या नॉन रेजिडेंट हो, उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है। एचयूएफ के लिए भी 30 वही है, स्लैब रेट, तो वो भी आ। अब मैं आ रहा हूं, हालांकि नॉन रेजिडेंट है, मैं ट्रीटी का बेनिफिट नहीं ले रहा, ट्रीटी के बाद तो बाद में करूंगा, तो भी स्पेशल रेट ऑफ हमारे यहां स्पेशल प्रोविजंस हैं अंडर चैप्टर 12। चैप्टर 12 ऑफ द इनकम टैक्स टॉक्स अबाउट स्पेशल प्रोविजन रिलेटिंग टू इनकम टैक्स। ये रेजिडेंट के लिए भी है उसमें और नॉन रेजिडेंट के लिए भी।
सर कुछ क्वेरीज आई हैं रेजिडेंशियल स्टेटस सेक्शन 6 पे, अगर आप अलाउ करो तो अभी ले लेते हैं।
हाँ बोलते हैं, फिर भरूंगा उसको,
लास्ट में ले लेते हैं सर।
नहीं ले लो,
क्योंकि सर अभी आपने सेक्शन 6 पूरा किया है तो...
हाँ, इसलिए कोई होगी तो बता दूंगा
जी। तो सर पहला क्वेरी आई है सेक्शन 6 सबसेक्शन 1 पे। देयर आर 2 एक्सप्लेनेशन। Explanation 1 have 2 part A and B. Now the query is which clause to be read first, or is there a sequence to read first? So for example,
my dear, clause A is for leaving India, and clause B is visit to India.
Sir, the question we have asked is, so suppose a person is leaving India for the purpose of employment outside India and he do not satisfy clause A, whether this person is also required to look at clause B of 120 days or not.
अरे यार, विजिट कहां से आ गया वो? अभी तो जा रहा है, विजिट तो करेगा अगले साल। अभी तो जा ही रहा है। He is outside India and comes for a visit to India. Yes. Where is he outside? No, A पढ़ना है। जब जाएगा तो A है।
When A and B both are independent clause, there may not be a case
बिल्कुल ठीक है।
both are applicable.
Yes.
So next question is, how we can say that a profession is set up from India?
अरे बताया, आप चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हो, इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट में आप प्रैक्टिस करते हो, सेटअप इन इंडिया।
Sir, we have lot of people from South India, so they request to do it.
Oh, I'll tell you. You are practicing in India. You are registered with. You have a membership of the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, and you are practicing in India. Obviously, you have a profession which is set up in India. A doctor registered with the Indian Medical Council of India is having a practice in India. Or a bar, if you are registered with a bar council, you are set up a profession in India. But what is the profession first? Profession means legal, medical, engineering, architecture, profession of accountancy, chartered accountant and cost accountant, profession of company secretary, interior decoration, information technology, and authorized representative and art. These authorized representative film artists, they are carrying on profession. In certain profession, the setup is here. You have to set up that profession in India. You have to seek some registration. Then it is set up in India.
The next question is, what would be the residential status of the employees of Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, posted in Indian embassies abroad, whether they will be treated as non-residents?
Sir, I have to come here. I have to explain to you deemed to accrue or rise. And deemed to accrue or rise, I will explain to you that point. I have to I forgot that I have to talk to you deemed to accrue or rise, because section 9 is very important. In case people think section 9 is only for non-resident, they are wrong. Some part of section 9 is only for resident and both non-resident, and some sections are only for resident, some clauses. I tell you that deemed to accrue. Give me a time. First, let me take the question, then I'll come to deemed to accrue or rise. Sorry, I didn't mention it.
Let me take question last only. some problem.
Shangarji, let this be over, because they then will keep on asking this question and the whole concept of non-resident will be a difficult thing. Yeah, let them understand the concept of non-resident and then we will take question last.
Yeah.
Let moderator will take this call.
Some problem is coming in YouTube. Sangamji, please ensure that members are sticking in the YouTube. They are dealing some problem in YouTube. Okay.
Okay.
Please look at this.
Sir,
Thank you, sir.
the question is not about the taxability of their salary. The question is that if somebody is filing return of an ambassador or any Indian citizen working in the Indian embassy abroad, so in the return of income, whether this person is deemed to be resident or non-resident, assuming he stays in that embassy for entire 365 days, because section 2 clause 25A of Income Tax Act says Indian territory means territory referred in Article 1 of the Constitution. It do not say that an Indian embassy situated abroad is also territory of India. So the question is whether they will be resident or non-resident.
Even if they are India, they are not resident of India, they are non-resident.
They are non-residents.
They are but deemed to accrue, and I will tell them, although they are non-resident, but their salary will be deemed to accrue or rise in India if it is paid by the government. That is the law.
Yes.
They may be non-resident, but the salary will become taxable. And Section 10(7) says allowances purposes which are given to them outside India shall be exempt. So that is a different story altogether.
Sir, one very good question for chartered accountants have come. So Mr. Vipin Kansal have asked a question. Sir, I have qualified a CPA from ICAI but never practiced in India. After that, I went to USA, did my CPA in USA and started practicing in USA. Whether it will be deemed to be a profession set up from India or not.
You are only qualified as a chartered accountant. You are not practicing here. You have not set up your profession here. You are qualified doesn't mean even you are in a job. So that doesn't mean that you are set up a profession here. He is a CPA from America. He is from America only. Not over here. CPA and CA degree he may be having. By taking a degree from Institute of Chartered Accountants in India does not mean that you are set up a profession in India. For setting up a profession of chartered accountancy in India, you have to get yourself registered and take certificate of practice from Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. You know that. That is only you practice in India.
Next question is, please explain and throw light on the taxability of marine employees and crew member of Indian ships after the amendment of Budget 2020.
Let me tell you, in case of an Indian citizen of India, member of a crew of an Indian ship, who sails along with the ship, the period is 181 days. He is non-resident. Now, you can say that outside India he is also not paying tax. Let's say he is only in the sea and he is not a resident of any country. Wait a minute. Then he is not resident in any country. Let's say Indian income is more than 15 lakh. Still, foreign income is, which foreign income is taxable in his case? Because he becomes not ordinary resident. Which foreign income? Number one, income from a business which is outside India, controlled from India. He is not carrying on a business. Income of a profession outside India, set up in India. He is not carrying on any profession. He is paying tax only on Indian income. He is paying tax on Indian income. That's all. So therefore be no difficulty. But there is no question that he doesn't pay tax outside India, so he is spared. No, he is not spared. If he has more than 50, deemed resident. But deemed resident does not matter. Not ordinary. Not ordinary does not matter. First two not have income. But he is a stateless person. So no extra concession has been given to him. But he is not affected by that.
That's one important query to understand the concept of the amendments made by Finance Act 2020. Sir, the query is, so there is a person of Indian origin who stays in India for 115 days in India, and he have income from India as well as income from abroad, and income from India maybe in excess of 15 lakhs, maybe in excess or less than 15 lakhs from Indian sources. Now,
has he come to India for
115 days?
119 days non-resident. But there is no question, even more than 15, less than 15, because less than 15 he could come for 181 days. So where is the problem? Where is the problem? If he is paying tax outside,
Yes.
if he is not paying tax outside India, then so even if he doesn't come for 1 day and he's covered under 6(1)(a, so then he's gone.
And then he
6(1)(a, so then he's gone.
become resident and not ordinary resident.
Yes, he cannot be non-resident at all. Resident but not ordinary. But treaty will help him. Wait, there is a treaty which can help him, because if he is resident of 2 countries, you can go for a tiebreaker rule. I'll tell you that later.
Okay, sir. So from now I think these are all queries.
Now coming back. Now I forgot to tell you what is deemed to accrue or rise. Very simple. Received in India, deemed to be received, I told you. Accrue or rise India means accrual system. But deemed to accrue. It appears to be, it may be outside India, but still it will be treated as deemed to accrue or rise in India. It says the all income arising directly or indirectly from any business connection in India will be an income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India. This section 9(1) clause I have not full not completed part of that. I have never used the word non-resident. I have used the word income. If all income of the whether directly or indirectly from business connection in India. Whose business connection? Resident or non-resident, we are not bothered. In India shall be deemed to accrue or rise in India. 2. All incomes arising directly or indirectly from any property situated in India, from any capital asset situated in India, from any source situated in India, or from transfer of any asset situated in India is an income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India. If you have any property in India, property does not mean only immovable property, any property, movable or immovable. If you have any asset in India and you are getting income, asset in India, you may receive it anywhere, deemed to be received in India. If you have any source of income in India, deemed to be received in India. If there is a capital gain from any asset which is situated in India, deemed to be received in India. Deemed to accrue. You have a house property situated in India. A foreigner comes, stays in the house property in India, goes back and gives the rent to him in foreign country. Doesn't matter. It is the income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India because that immovable property was situated in India. Are you getting my point? A foreigner comes to India, stays in my house, taken the house for 6 months, 8 months, 4 months, 5 months, whatever may be, goes back, gives me rent there. Although the rent is received there, but does not matter. It is deemed to accrue or rise in India because that property was situated in India. Shares of the Indian company, you transfer there, wherever, deemed to accrue or rise in India, but there may be a possibility when you can say it is exempt. That is not exempt. It may not be treated as transfer. When non-resident transfer to another non-resident outside India, section 47 says it is not a transfer. That is a specific section. Otherwise, asset is in India, source of income is in India, property is in India, or business connection in India. It is deemed to accrue or rise in India, whether you are resident or non-resident. It is taxable. 2I. Income taxable under the head salary shall be deemed to accrue or rise in India if it is earned in India. This is 2I, section 9, subsection 1, clause 2I. If this taxable under the head salary, if it is earned in India. Next is income chargeable to tax under salary paid by the government to a citizen of India outside India shall be an income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India. So if you are working in an embassy outside India, you are non-resident or resident, doesn't make any difference. That non-resident salary which is getting from government, basic salary, is deemed to accrue or rise in India as per section 9, subsection 1, clause I. He may be resident still and he may be getting foreign salary. For 5 months he was there, for 7 months he was there, doesn't make any difference. For full year he was there, does not make any difference. That is income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India and that will be taxable in India. Whether is non-resident, still taxable in India because of deemed to accrue. Dividend declared by an Indian company, paid by an Indian company, wherever received, is an income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India. This is section 9, subsection 1, clause IV. Now section 9, subsection 1, clause V. Interest paid outside India. Interest paid outside India by a resident of India shall be an income deemed to accrue or rise in India. I am a resident of India paying interest to a non-resident outside India. It will be an income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India. That non-resident will have to pay tax in India unless that money was borrowed outside India and was also used outside India for carrying on a business or profession outside India. A business or any source of income outside India. I'll explain. There is an Indian citizen, a resident of India, maybe company or maybe anyone, resident of India. He borrowed money from US to set up a plant in Singapore. Borrowed money US and set up a plant in Singapore where the business is outside India, borrowed outside India. This is not deemed to accrue or rise in India. This is not, because unless you have paid interest, but it is for a business which is set up outside India. Another, I have paid the tax. I have paid the tax to that non-resident. That will be deemed to accrue or rise in India if I use that money for carrying on any business in India or profession in India. If I borrow any money from there and I carry on the business in India, it will be an income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India. Similarly, if it is for royalty or fee for technical services, and there is an explanation given at the end that if you are making a payment to non-resident, that non-resident may have any place of business in India, may not have any business connection in India, may not have any office in India, or may not be rendering services in India. Even then, that amount which we are paying is an income which is deemed to accrue or rise in India if that is used in India. I told you, if that is used in India, this is section 9(1)(v), 9(1)(bi), royalty, 9(1)(bii), fee for technical services, 9(1)(v), interest paid to non-resident, 9(1)(6), royalty paid to non-resident, 9(1)(7), fee for technical service paid to the non-resident outside India. If that money is used in India or used for any business in India or for earning income in India, that will be treated as deemed to accrue or rise in India. Unless you borrow the money outside India and use it also outside India, then it is a different thing. Otherwise, it will be used in India. Then that non-resident says, I have given that only outside India. He has brought to India. How am I responsible? No, he will see to it, because it is a money which is used in India, then it is deemed to accrue or rise in India. Know how you have taken outside India, but used in India, it will be deemed to accrue or rise in India. He cannot say that I have given the know-how in outside India. They have said whether that person has any place of business in India or has any residence in India or any business connection in India, or whether or not services are rendered in India or not, it will be treated as deemed to accrue or rise in India, and the non-resident will have to pay tax in India. And there is one more which was added 2 years back. 9(1), clause VIII, 8. What is that? Income arising, any income arising from being in the nature of any amount paid outside India, money paid outside India. And that money is referred to in section 56(2)(10). That means that you have given some gift to a person outside India. The gift has been paid on or after 5th of July 2019 by a resident to a non-resident outside India. The non-resident is outside India. I am a resident in India. It is a sum of money referred to in section 2 clause 24 sub clause 17A. वो क्या है sub clause 17A? वही gift received gift received under 56 to 10. तो वो gift more than 50,000 है, so that will be treated as deemed to accrue or arise in India. That non-resident sitting outside India receiving gift from a resident in India will have to pay tax in India if that amount exceeds 50,000 because it is deemed to accrue or rise in India. Probably the Avinash also mentioned last time that there is some provision which has been changed. This is the provision that gift received from a resident in India by a non-resident outside India shall be deemed to accrue or rise outside India in India on or after 5th of July 2019. तो ये 56 to 10 में आकर it will be taxable under the head income from other sources. This is deemed to accrue or rise. I'm coming to, I told you that you are non-resident, to income taxable, received, deemed to be received, accrue or rise, deemed to accrue or rise. And deemed to accrue or rise, I've given you eight clauses of deemed to accrue or rise. Even if it is outside India, you will pay tax in India. Even if it is received outside India, you will pay tax in India. You satisfy the condition of 91I, 912I, 913I, 914, dividend declared by Indian company, received outside India. 914, 916, fee for technical service paid outside or to pay non-company. I told you, if it's firm, 30. But wait, we have chapter 12, which I stopped. He stopped me when I was going to start chapter 12, special income, starting from 111A. This starts from 111A. And 111A, what is that? Short-term capital gain from the transfer of any listed securities, listed shares, or unit of the equity-oriented fund shall be liable to be taxed at the special rate of 15%. So if we are a total income includes total income whose? I'm talking about non-resident. Any short-term capital gain from the transfer of any listed shares or transfer of unit on which security transaction tax has been paid, that amount shall be liable to be taxed in his hands at the rate of 15% as per domestic law movement. As per domestic. While calculating this 15%, that 250,000 limit exemption, this will not include in 250,000. This even if your income is short-term capital gain is less than 250,000 and you don't have any other income, still you will have to pay 15,000. For short-term capital gain, exemption of 250,000 which is allowed to non-resident, benefit is allowed only to resident and not to non-resident. So therefore, you are 250,000 even if it is less than 250, but if it includes short-term capital gain referred to under 111A, you will have to pay tax at the rate of 15%. You cannot say it is exempt up to 250. Right, next one. 112. 112 is assets situated in India. Long-term capital gain from transfer of assets situated in India. If there is a non-resident has any assets situated in India, capital assets situated. And you know what is capital asset? Movable, immovable, tangible, intangible, corporeal, non-corporeal, all kinds of assets. So that capital asset is situated in India. Then a transfer of capital asset, they will be subject to capital gain tax in India at the rate of 20%. in case of non-resident also. But if it is from transfer of unlisted share of the company, you are the non-resident having shares in the unlisted company, and there is a long-term capital gain. Long-term capital gain in case of unlisted is when you transfer after 24 months. Unlisted company. Then please note that percent without indexation or 20% with indexation. Choice is yours. If it is less, you want to be without indexation 10%, with indexation 20%. You have to work out which is beneficial to you. Note, you will not be given exemption of 250 or shifting, not allowed. If it is security transaction tax has been paid and you are long-term capital gain taxable under 112A. That's a different thing. How to calculate cost of acquisition if the share was acquired before 1st February. Remember that 31st January 2019 when it came, that you can take the value of that date also, the market value of that date also. But that is a point which is applicable for all 112. Now next section, 115 capital A for non-resident exclusively, where the total income of a non-resident other than a foreign company or a foreign company. Whenever we talk, we will always write non-resident other than a foreign company or a foreign, because foreign company can be resident in India if its place of effective management is situated in India. That's why we call it income of a non-resident other than a foreign company, or a foreign company includes any income by way of dividend. By way of dividend. If there is income is by way of dividend, you can pay tax at the rate of 20%. This is special benefit given, special rate of tax under section 115 capital A exclusively for non-resident and foreign company. I'm telling that dividend income, which is now going to be taxed in the hands of the recipient shareholder from 1st April 2020, now a non-resident can pay tax at 20%. It is a different thing when you apply treaty. In treaty, it may be 10%, and in some case it may be 5%, but that point later. The Indian taxation is 20%. Now, your total income includes any interest other than the interest of infrastructure bond or 194 LB, LC, etc. The interest is on account of money borrowed or debt incurred by the government or Indian company. That debt has been taken or money has been borrowed in foreign currency. Please borrow the money. One, government borrow. Two, Indian company. In that case, or the rupee dominated bond, which are there under 194, LB, LD, LD. I'm not talking about that. Then this rate is 20%. Interest rate is 20%. LBA, LD, though it can be 5% also. But here you have borrowed money from outside India. You are an Indian company, or you are government of India. Government can be state government can be central government. You borrowed money. or borrowed money in foreign currency, then the tax is 20%. I'm not talking about TDS rate, withholding tax rate. I'm talking about tax under 115A is 20%. And there is a clause when you are charging at 20% or no deduction under 28 to 44C or no deduction under 57, other sources will be allowed. When you are paying tax at this flat rate of 20%, the deduction under 28 to 44C for expenses incurred for business not allowed, for earning this income not allowed, no expense. And if there is income from other source, section 57 deduction will not be allowed. And number 2, from this income, no deduction under chapter 6A will be allowed. No deduction under chapter 6A will be allowed from this income. And this income is taxable at 20%. And there is one very good thing, that if there is a non-resident whose total income is exclusively of this nature, he doesn't have any other income, only foreign income of this interest, then he or dividend, then in that case he may not file a return of income if the tax has been deducted at source at this rate. There is a clause that they may not file return of income also if they have no other income except these two income, dividend income or interest on money borrowed, which is, and the TDS at the rate of 20% has been deducted. So therefore there is no need to file return of income. Now this was section 115A, subsection 1, clause A. Now there is section 115A, subsection 1, clause B. Royalty or fee for technical services paid to non-resident shall be subject to special rate of 20%. Royalty or fee for technical services will be subject to special rate of 20%. Please note my point. When I say 20%, surcharge, etc. is separate. This is basic rate, 20%. Oh, sorry. I'm extremely sorry, 10%. I'm extremely sorry, 10%. I'm saying royalty or fee for technical services paid outside India to a non-resident shall be subject to tax at the rate of 10% if it is paid by government or Indian company under for certain specified purpose or sare purpose specific. Now they are specified, which is approved. Then 10% royalty. But wait a minute, 10% royalty TDS to be deducted plus surcharge. But if it is a treaty, then you go to treaty. But again, here also, no deduction under 28 to 44C if that is income from business. If that income of a non-resident is from business, no deduction under 24 to 28 to 44C. If income of that non-resident is from other sources, no deduction under 57. In interest also I told you, no deduction if it is business income of the non-resident, no deduction under 28 to 44C, no deduction under 57 if that income of a non-resident from other sources, no deduction of deduction in a royalty or fee for technical services if it is a business income, or under 28 to 44C if that income, royalty or fee for technical service or non-resident is other sources, no deduction of 57, and further no deduction under chapter 6A. But one advantage given this time, they may also not file return of income if the TDS has been deducted at source and this non-resident does not have any other income. This is also a clause which is there, which is recently added. Firstly, for salary, for what you call royalty or fee for technical services, they were supposed to file return of income even if TDS were deducted. But now, like dividend and interest, they may not deduct. If the tax TDS has been deducted and they have no other income, they may not file return of income at all. This is the 115A I have told you. 115AB is for offshore fund. If they are an offshore fund and they invest in offshore fund outside India, they invest in units in India, then they said interest of these units shall be taxable at 10%. And capital gain on the transfer of this unit, long-term capital gain, shall also be taxable at 10% in the case of this offshore fund, we call them offshore fund. They invest in units. They don't invest any other. They are allowed to invest in units of the unit trust India or unit of mutual fund 1023D. Then the income which they receive at the unit will be taxable at a special rate of 10%. Earliest income of unit was exempt. You know that under 1035. Now it has become taxable under section this 115 AV in their case. 10%. Long-term capital gain 10%. 115 AC, non-resident in India has invested in a government bond, public sector bond issued by government, or in a bond which is approved by the government under notification, and they are invested in bonds in India. Then the interest of that bond shall be taxable in the hands of the non-resident at the rate of 10%. They buy in foreign currency, the notified bond of the Indian company, notified bond, or bonds of the public sector company sold by the government, 10%. And long-term capital gain also 10%, 115 AC, 115 AD, foreign FII, foreign institutional investor. Securities include shares also. The Regulation Act are there. On the transfer of these securities. Long-term capital gain 10, short-term capital gain 30, 115 AD. There is section called 115 BBA, sportsman, sports association, or any entertainer who is not a citizen of India and who is a non-resident of India. Two things, that sportsman, that entertainer, that person should be not a citizen of India. Not a citizen of India. And he should be non-resident in India. If a citizen of India and is non-resident in India and he gives any performance, sportsmen include athlete also. He gives or he plays in India in any game, or he gives any program of entertainment in India for an artist, or he contributes any article in any magazine in India, or he goes for any advertisement for any company in India. All these three income of a non-resident shall be taxable at a special rate of 20%. I'm not talking about treaty. Treaty is altogether different. I'm not talking about treaty. I'm talking about domestic taxation. Under 115 BBA, suppose for foreign cricketer, New Zealand, they come here. They are non-citizen of India and non-resident. Or they come from Australia, they come from different places. They come and play in India. Whatever game fee they get for playing in India, that is taxable at but domestic taxation 20%. I'm not talking about treaty. Number two, if they go for advertisement, you must have seen they were all advertising in India in IPF. So many advertisement was given. They will all be taxable at 20%. And if they are contributing any articles in any newspaper or magazine, that also is 20%. Similarly, foreign association, let's say MCC, let's say Australian Cricket Board, let's say New Zealand Cricket Board, their association also gets certain fee outside India because they come and play, their player come in India, we give them some money. That money when they are receiving, those association outside India is also liable to be taxed in India at a special rate of 20%. There is one more, 115 BBD. Agar foreign company, if you receive a dividend from a specified company, then in that case, that specified foreign company. 115 BBD says that tax income will be taxable at a special rate of 15%. Specified foreign company means an Indian company who has at least 26% shares in that foreign company. It is taxable at 15%. But wait and watch. We have now section 80M, which says, new section, where a domestic company receives a dividend from another domestic company or from a business trust or for a foreign company, please, for a foreign company, then if that amount is distributed as dividend to its shareholder subject to the condition laid down under ATM, then the domestic company shall be eligible for deduction under ATM. So 115 BBD may not be applicable when you distribute that dividend here. Then straight away you can get deduction under ATM. Otherwise, if it is a foreign company and 115 BBD is applicable because you hold there under ATM, then you are liable to pay tax on that income 15%. 15%. 115 BBD. Actually, let me tell you, it will lose its significance because everybody will receive dividend domestic company. They will distribute to the shareholder. There will be no double taxation. That's why they will not do it. But this 115 BBD is also there, I have told you. Next point. I've told you these are the special rate under chapter. But we have one more chapter 12A. That chapter is for a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin. We call them non-resident Indian. Please note, non-resident Indian. I'm not taking non-resident in India. An Indian can be foreign. I'm talking about non-resident Indian. There is non-resident in India. Any person, any foreigner is non-resident of India. But who is non-resident in India? A citizen of India or a person of Indian origin is known as non-resident Indian. What is person of Indian origin? Person of Indian origin means an individual who is either born, who himself is born, or his parents are born, or his grandparents were born in undivided India. He is not a citizen of India. He lives outside India. He is not a citizen of India. But he was born in undivided India, means India before 1947. He himself was born in undivided India. And he is not in India now, citizen. He is outside India. He can be called a person of Indian origin. He was born in London, let's say, after 1947. But if his father was born in undivided India, means before 1947, he will be a person of Indian origin. Or if his grandfather was born in undivided India before 1947, even if he is outside India, we say you have roots in India. You have roots in India. You are person of Indian origin. So these two persons have some benefit under section 115C to 115I. Nothing much benefit. They can invest. The citizen of India or person of Indian can invest in foreign exchange specified asset. Foreign exchange assets are assets, these shares in Indian company or Indian company, maybe listed or non-listed. Shares in Indian company, securities, debentures of Indian company, or maybe deposit in post office. They are all called deposit. If they have deposited that money, they can pay interest at the rate of 20%. If they satisfy the condition 115C, person of Indian origin or citizen of India, for non-resident Indian, only Indian, pay 20%. And on long-term capital gain on transfer of any these assets, these specified assets will be taxable at a rate of 10%. Long-term capital gain 10% on these assets. These assets means specified foreign exchange assets. Those foreign exchange assets are shares of an Indian company, debentures of Indian company, or securities of the post offices and securities of certain government notified government securities. These can pay tax at the rate of 20% under section 115D. The tax is 20%, and long-term capital gain on transfer of these specified assets is also 10%. And they have got one more benefit of 115F. If they transfer that capital, if they transfer the shares or debentures, without indexation, there is a proviso. Then they reinvest that capital gain in the another specified asset. Within a period of 6 months, they get the exemption under 115F. There are many other things. A non-resident Indian who can get non-resident external account, his income is totally exempt. You know that. There is section 10(4). Non-resident income there are certain non-resident income is also exempt under 10 section. That is different thing. These are the now this person who is not resident. There is a possibility. There is a person who is a resident in India, and there is a person who is a resident outside India also. Or he is a resident outside India, but he is resident or not ordinary resident in India. I told you, Avinashji told yesterday that residential status, if you are a non-resident, then the treaty will apply a non-resident. But if you are a resident of both the countries, because you may be resident of that country, you are resident of USA, because you are citizen of USA, you are holding green card of USA, you are always resident of USA, and also resident of India, let's say. Then what happens? UK, that they are here. US does not believe in that treaty. The US does not believe in tiebreaker rule. He believes in tiebreaker rule only when you are not holding citizenship of USA, you are not holding the green card of USA, but you are staying in USA in 183 days. And you are also a resident of India. What will happen? I'll tell you. Or you may be a resident of UK, and you are also a resident of India. You may be a resident of Singapore. You are also a resident of India. Or you may be deemed resident in India. What will happen? You will have to go for treaty. The treaty says that you have to apply treaty only when you are resident of one of these two countries or both the countries. When you are resident of both the countries, you will have to decide that you have to be resident of one country. For other country, you will become non-resident. There is a tiebreaker. This tiebreaker rule is there also in T20 matches. You know that. We won 2 matches from New Zealand by applying the tiebreaker rule. What was the tiebreaker rule? In case of T20 matches, you play one super over, and who scores the maximum in super over will be the winner. Both cannot be winner. Only one has to be winner, another will be loser. Or suppose you score the same amount, both the teams score the same runs, then you play another tiebreaker. You play one more over. You keep on playing the super over till one becomes the winner by scoring the maximum marks. Similarly, when you are going to try treaty, we have entered into agreement under section 90 with double taxation treaty with other state. 90A, please, 90 is very important. When you enter treaty with the other country, we call contracting states with the other country. But sometimes we enter into a treaty not with a country, with certain specified territory. For example, we have entered into a treaty with Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a specified territory. Hong Kong is the government of Hong Kong or a special representative act under that. There is a Hong Kong only. Although Hong Kong is under Republic of China, but Hong Kong has a special status. We have entered into a treaty with Hong Kong. But who has signed that? This is specified territory. The Commissioner of Internal Revenue of Hong Kong and Finance Minister of India has signed the treaty. But there the word used is not contracting state. The word used is contracting party. Contracting party. Contracting party. When you use with the country, we use the word contracting state. When you use with the specified territory, we call it contracting party. So we have entered into a Hong Kong treaty with 1st April 2019 become effective, although notified under 31st December 2018. but we have entered into a treaty, but treaty was not with the Republic of China, treaty was with Hong Kong, which is a specified territory, and we call it as contracting parties. We have entered into a treaty. Now, we have to see if we are free. We will apply tiebreaker. The tiebreaker rule says, I'm not talking about USA. USA only when you are citizen, not citizen, or UK or that. Tiebreaker rule says you will be a resident of that country where you have permanent home. I will not say country, or resident of that specified territory where you have permanent home. Hong Kong, permanent home. If you have a permanent home in Hong Kong or yes, Singapore or UK, then you become non-resident of India, even if you are resident of India. Even if you are resident or deemed resident of India, you are if you are a permanent home there. But it is quite possible you have permanent home in India, you don't have permanent home in that country, then you become resident of India and non-resident of foreign country. But another point, suppose you have permanent home in both the countries, then again tiebreaker rule applies. And tiebreaker rule says, look here, tiebreaker will apply, but now we will see your personal interest or your economic interest. Wherever you have more economic interest or personal interest, there you will be treated as resident in India. Many non-resident, our citizens outside India, have lot of economic interest in India. Then he will be called resident of India and non-resident outside India. If they have economic or personal interest outside India, they will be called non-resident in India. If it is cannot be determined economic interest or permanent home also, they are both, then we go for where he has habitual abode, habitually where he lives. And if that too is not possible, then we go for nationality of that, of which country he is national. So we have a tiebreaker rule. And after applying the tiebreaker rule, you will now a resident can also be called non-resident. I could be a resident in India, but I am also a resident of a foreign country. Still, I can be called non-resident by applying the tiebreaker rule. And the moment I am non-resident, I'll get the privileges of all non-resident under treaty. Under treaty. That is the biggest advantage. Even if you are resident of this country, but if by chance you are resident of the other country also with which we have agreement, in that case, apply tiebreaker rule. And by tiebreaker rule, if you become non-resident in India, you will take the benefit of that also. For example, in Dubai, I am there in Dubai for 183 days more. But in India, I may not be even one day. I become deemed resident. In Dubai, I am there for 183 days or more. I am resident of Dubai. In India, I am here even for not even 1 day. I am deemed resident. Then I will apply tiebreaker rule because we have a treaty with Dubai, UAE. The tiebreaker rule says permanent home. If permanent home only in Dubai, non-resident India. If permanent home is both places, then we go for second tiebreaker. Or if it is only in India, then of course Indian resident. If it is a tiebreaker rule both, then we go to vested interest. And if the interest is nahi, then habitual abode. So you can work out and can even a resident can become non-resident in India by applying the treaty. We have one more thing. A resident of India have 91A, even if we don't have a treaty, gets the tax credit of whatever he has paid in foreign country, but that is resident of India. Whatever he has paid in foreign country, he gets the tax credit at the average rate under section 91, where we don't have treaty. But where we have treaty, then it is a different story altogether. Indian one who is non-resident in India, in his case, interest income, dividend income, royalty income, or even fee for technical services income are taxable, not at this rate, at the special rate. There is a special rate in treaty is 10%. 10%. And they get credit of that amount in foreign country also, when they of a country of which they are resident. So I have got to talk to you about 90 section also, double taxation relief also. Let me talk to you that there is an international transaction also under 2092, the transfer prices. I may not talk to you about that transfer pricing because that is not a subject which I am supposed to talk to you at this stage of that is transaction to be done at arm's length price. According to me, I have almost completed. The moderator is here to check me. he can find fault with me. He can suggest me that you have not talked about this section. I will certainly talk that section, and then we can take up questions here.
Sir, you please take up 90 subsection 4, that is 1, and 195 a little bit also. And
For 94, you already spoke to them yesterday of
Again-
tax residency certificate. That you cannot go for a treaty unless you have tax residency certificate. How do we know that you are resident of that country? How do we know? When we read the treaty, we will have to read the only treaty then when you are resident of that country. The tax residency certificate has to be for that country. So 94 says section 90 subsection 4 or 90A subsection 4, both are saying please take a tax residency certificate, because if you are a resident of that country and you are non-resident of that, then we will say non-resident of this country. And then if there is a tiebreaker, then also you need to be a resident of that country. Then only we'll apply tiebreaker. Otherwise we can't apply tiebreaker. But otherwise also, you are saying I'm a non-resident. Tell me you are a resident of that country. Then only we will apply treaty. If you don't give me a tax residency certificate, I will not apply treaty, even if you are non-resident of this country. You have to give me tax residency certificate to take a benefit of section 90A or 90A. And 195 is withholding tax.
sir, but just 1 minute. I just need to add one more thing. We have a form 10F also, and 10F says there are 6 information which is required to be there in a TRC given by the non-resident. If any of the information is missing in the tax residency certificate, then the non-resident can give this information by way of a declaration in form 10F, because every country have their own style of giving TRC. So for example, in UK, the TRC is given as on date. So when I apply the certificate for TRC certificate UK on 20th of April, they say as on 20th of April, you are resident of UK. But our law says that it has to be a certificate for the tax year. So whenever we apply a certificate in
Sir, Avinashji, but this has to be done when you take treaty. When you talk about treaty discussion, then you should do about this.
Yes. So that is why,
Even 195 will be taken there. But you are making a payment to a non-resident outside India. Every person responsible for making a payment to a non-resident which is chargeable to tax in India. Income which is chargeable to tax in India. There is no limit, no threshold. Even individual, HA, firm, company, everyone who makes a payment outside India of any income which is chargeable to tax in India to a non-resident which is chargeable to tax in India, you are supposed to deduct TDS at the rate which is given under Schedule Part 2 of Schedule 1 of the relevant Finance Act. There is a rate given. In that rate, you have to deduct the TDS, which is called it as withholding tax at that particular rate. But for that also, you remember, when you are making a payment outside India, you have to obtain a certificate from a chartered accountant under Form 15CB, and also you have to fill up Form 15A. Without that, remittance cannot be made outside India. Yes, Rule 37B, sometimes, in some cases, you only have to file Form 15CA, not 15CB. And in some cases, nothing to be filed. So therefore, that discussion will be done when somebody will talk to you about Rule 37B and Form 15CA and 15CB. That also is very important. But that discussion has to be done in the light of the discussion when we talk about withholding tax and we talk about this rule also.
Sir, 206AA also you please cover.
206AA also says tax to be deducted, that is maximum 20%. It's not 20%. At the rate prescribed, or 20%, whichever is higher. If the higher is higher rate, not 20%. If you don't provide PAN, the rate is higher percent. But now they have said in 206AA, they may not provide the tax residency certificate. They provide certain information on the basis which they can know that you are resident of that country. Then also the PAN is not required. The PAN may not be there. but certain information from that country you take it, then we will give you the benefit of that rate.
So can we take up the query, sir, now?
Yes, you can take up the query.
So, sir, the first query that I have received from Mr. Alok Kuchal, his query is that an Indian company is having a project office situated outside India, and there are employees of Indian company who have gone to that project office outside India.
I will not talk about treaty at all,
Yes, only the
because this question relates to more or treaty, and please take it in treaty time, because otherwise the others will be in a difficulty to understand.
Sir, the question is, he is asking the question that employees are moving from India for this project office outside India, and their total number of day of stay is in India is less than 182 days. So whether the benefit of clause A.
They have gone for employment, na? They have gone for employment.
The question is more about there is no separate employer. The Indian employer have an extended branch office or a project office. Whether they are covered with this clause or not.
From where the salary is given, that is important.
Salary is given to their account in that country only.
Salary is given to the account in that country.
Yes.
There. You want to say whether it is taxed in India
No,
or
it is about the residential status.
My dear, have you gone for employment? Because they have already given that going from here to that country, even for this purpose, will be 181 days.
So my view is also same, sir. Because they are going for an employment outside India, so they are covered under the explanation A part.
Correct.
So next question is about section 6 1A newly inserted section. So the clause says that if they are not liable to pay tax in that country because of his domicile and other similar criteria.
By reason of his residence, domicile, or other criteria.
So what is the meaning of liable to pay tax?
My dear, what the point is, this question was raised, but Supreme Court has given a judgment, and they say if that is exempt there, still this is treated as liable to pay, not liable to pay tax there. So the judgment has been there for Supreme Court. That's why they are very specifically, I discussed with them. When they said that, I told them it is not, tax is not there. And when the tax is not there, where is the question? They are not liable, because they are not liable, means there is no tax. Had there been tax, then you have given an example that the Cayman Island, you are not liable to pay tax there. It's a different thing. But here though it is exempt, it is not there. It's a nothing doing. All wherever there is exemption, there is no tax, they are not liable to pay tax there. This is Sultan case was there, which has happened in Supreme Court.
Sir, but there was an argument by many taxpayers and tax professionals.
I know.
That they are not liable to pay tax today, but in future, when they come up with a taxation law in that country, they may be liable. So there may not be a present liability, but there would be a future liability.
Due to Supreme Court decision, they have used this.
So according to me, if they are not actually paying taxes during the previous year, so they are covered.
Not liable.
Next, sir, while calculating the threshold limit of income of 15 lakhs, whether income which is exempt under section 10 is to be computed and included in the limit of 15 lakhs, or it should be outside the limit.
Section 2 clause 44 defines the total income, and it says total income is the total amount of income referred to in 5 computed in the manner laid down under the Income Tax Act. How do you compute under the Income Tax Act? You exclude 10, you only take 5 heads of income, then you claim deductions. That is income computed in the manner under the Income Tax Act. But while computing that, you have to take 2 more income from business outside India, controlled from India, income profession outside India, set up in India. But you will get all deductions, set up of loss, everything. And that is total income. If that is not defined, otherwise they should have defined the total income. When this definition is not given, we will have to refer to section 2. And section 2 defines total income under section 2 clause 45. Computed in a manner laid down under the Income Tax Act.
So meaning
thereby it is not to be included.
Not to be included. So section 10
exempt.
Not to be included. Next. So when there was a transfer of shares by one non-resident NRI to another NRI,
that is under 1947, section 47 gives you certain transaction not regarded as transfer. And since it is not regarded as transfer, there is no capital gain. So one NRI transfer the share to the another NRI in a country outside India, it will not be regarded as transfer. It is on that way. It is there. Or bonds also.
Next. Sir, if a person who is a NRI or PIO becomes deemed resident under section 6 subsection
PIO cannot be
1A,
under that.
whether
Only citizen of India. Because 618 doesn't talk about PIO, person of Indian origin. It talks only a citizen of India.
so whether DTA benefit is available to this person?
I told you, na, if the country, if the resident of two countries apply tiebreaker rule, if it is applicable.
Okay. Okay. I think the querist will ask not about the residential status or tiebreaker rule. He is asking about the DTA benefit of other clauses because when he becomes resident in India, whether he will be able to take the benefit of Indian treaties with other countries or not, that should be the query. So I believe yes, this is available. So because he becomes resident here, so
I know.
treaties will be applicable on him. The next question.
He becomes resident. If there he is non-resident, so foreign income, he will take the benefit of foreign income.
Yes. The next question is on salary. So there the question is a person who is an employee of Indian company. He goes to Dubai and company pays a salary of 1 crore rupees in a year to him. He stays 365 days in Dubai only. He spends 95 lakh rupees on the expenditure of hotel and other stay. Whether 5 lakh will be taxable or entire 1 crore will be taxable.
Are you saying salary or are you saying this? When it is salary, why are you talking about the deduction? Deduction and salary are only two or three rather. Standard deduction or what you call expenditure, entertainment allowance and professional tax. So why are you saying that it is salary? Although say it is benefit given separately for that purpose is a different thing. Official duty. And then he spends on official duty is a different thing. Don't say salary. Once it is salary, it is only three deduction. And point more. Even if they are 365 days, he is a citizen of India. He will be deemed to be resident in India.
Okay.
If he,
Next, sir. So there is a US company. The US company is having 3 shareholders and 3 directors. All 3 shareholders are citizens of India, but 2 shareholders are staying in India and 1 shareholder is staying in USA. All are citizens. So whether this company is deemed to be resident in India because of the
managerial decisions are not taken by shareholder.
directors,
It is
all
a
3
board.
shareholders are also directors.
Yeah, you didn't tell me that. You didn't tell me that. And if the decision of the entity as a whole, managerial decision or commercial decision of the entity as a whole, in substance, is done in India, it is the point. It is a place of active management in India.
Okay.
Now what you read the explanation.
Next.
Managerial decision, there is a guideline, please. I forgot to tell you, there is a circular, there are guidelines given how to, about point, a place of effective management. Please read, a notification is also there and there is one circular is also there. You will have to read the guidelines before I answer your questions.
Okay, sir. Sir, one request to all the participants are, many participants are asking question about 15 CSEB, fee for technical services and royalty. Sir, we have a separate session on this topic. So my request is that question should be restricted only on the current topic, then it will be more beneficial for all of us. So the next question that we have is a person of Indian origin who is a non-resident. He sold his house property in India. And this is whether the capital gain earned by that PIO is taxable in India. Answer is
What is so specific about PIO? Anybody who is outside India and a property situated in India, it is deemed to accrue a right in India. What is so special about PIO or citizen of India or even foreigner? Even a foreigner may have a non-resident also can have a property in India residential.
what is the rate of tax and under which section it is taxable? This is the next question.
Capital gain is taxable at the rate of 20% plus surcharge.
If it is long-term capital gain.
प्रॉपर्टी में क्या शॉर्ट टर्म करेगा वो?
And whether he is eligible to obtain a lower deduction certificate from income tax. So 197, Raja, if you can take 197 also.
Okay, about 197, let me tell you. Form 13, you have to apply for 197 you are talking about. You have to apply under Form 13. And Form 13, there are two. 195.2 is also there. 195.2 is also for amount to be reduced. Tax, the rate of tax is not reduced, but the computation is reduced. The income is reduced. And 197, you can go for lower rate of taxation by making an application under Form number 30. This is allowed to resident also, to non-resident also. They can make an application. Online application is there, and they can make an application in Form 13, but they will have to satisfy why the rate of tax should be. You know, all those calculations they will have to work out and find out why it should be at lower rate. That way, because 99%, if lower rate is given only when TT benefit is also going to be take benefit. Otherwise rate is only 10%. Special rate is 10%. So where is the question of taking a benefit of that? Unless there is some loss, there is loss to be set up or something like that.
The next question is, Indian company received dividend from a foreign company and the same is taxable under section 115 BBD.
No, specified foreign company.
So whether
no, not all foreign company. Specified means where I
whether the Indian company can claim the benefit of
they should go to ATM. They should go to ATM. Then company will not pay tax, but I will have to pay tax at normal rate. Shareholder, company will not, because ATM is a benefit now. Foreign companies included there. There they have not said 26%. They have used the word foreign company. Under 115 BBD, they have used the specified foreign company. So that is more beneficial under ATM. Any company you receive from any foreign company, you distribute that, you will not be covered under ATM. Because here after paying 15%, the money will come to company and then company will distribute dividend. Again, that tax will be there to the shareholder. The two-time tax, one company pays. Otherwise, the shareholder will also pay that for that dividend which I received from foreign company, let's say 2 crore. I pay 15%. Then the money is with me, I distribute to my shareholder. They will also pay tax. So what is the use? Bring it under ATM and distribute that amount. You don't have to pay tax. The shareholder will only pay tax, but at normal rate.
The next, a person resident in India earning professional income from Nepal by working there 55 days, what would be the position of tax in India?
Again, repeat.
A person, Indian resident working in Nepal for 55 days and earn foreign income.
What does it matter? 55 days or 200 days, resident of India has to pay tax on global income. What is so special about this?
They have asked a query.
It is a global income taxable, resident is global income.
Sir, an OCI card holder, overseas citizen of India.
The overseas card holder is person of Indian origin.
Okay.
They are called person of Indian origin.
So they are saying that OCI card holder have 18 lakhs rent income in India and they have 60 lakh salary in Bahrain. Whether 60 lakh salary will be taxable in India?
1 minute. You are deemed resident?
Yes.
And when you are deemed resident, wait a minute. You know that only Indian income taxable. Foreign income is not taxable unless that income is from a business which is controlled from India. It is from salary. It's not from a business or a profession which is set up in India. You are saying it is salary in Bahrain. Why salary should be taken? Why salary should be taken in that? No, it will not be taken in 15 lakh also. And it will not be taxable even if he is a deemed resident.
Because 15 lakh, because rent is already exceeding 15 lakhs. So that's
okay, deemed resident means not ordinary resident. Not ordinary resident means income received in India, deemed to receive India, accrue arise, deemed to accrue. And only two foreign income. Business controlled from India, profession set up in India. So where is the question? No income taxable. Even if more than 15.
Sir, next question is, please clarify residential status of seafarer employed on foreign ship.
I will already explain that is foreign ship. There is nothing, no concession, normal. They have gone for employment abroad. That's all. That's all. There is no. He is not a citizen of India or member of a crew of Indian ship. He is not a citizen of India or a member of Group of Indianship. So no explanation added. No explanation. Normal definition 60 days or 365 days or 182 days. How are we concerned if they are in foreignship?
Next. So whether linking of Aadhaar card for NRI is compulsory?
Linking of Aadhaar card with PAN number. NRI may not have an Aadhaar card at all. NRI may not have an Aadhaar card at all.
So this is not.
So where is the linking required? If they have Aadhaar card, then only, na? If there is no Aadhaar card, why?
Sir, I just clarify this provision. Sir, in the income tax website login, in the profile, if you select non-resident against the SSC, then that linking itself become non-mandatory.
That's what I'm telling you, na? That's why there is no need. That's why there is no need.
Sir, if I have a job in Dubai and receive salary in Dubai, also I stay in India for 300 days, whether such income shall be taxable in India?
Moment you are for 300 days, my dear, you are more than 182 days, then you are saying citizen of India having income of more than 15 lakh, notwithstanding. Am I right? Notwithstanding means you will come under 6(1)(a). You will not come under 6(1). The moment you have an Indian income more than 15 lakh, you cannot come under 6(1). Then you may come to India, anything you are deemed resident. And you are not ordinary resident. Yeah, Avinash is not convinced himself.
No, sir, I am reading the queries.
Okay. I think you are convinced that it is okay. Answer.
This is okay, sir. Otherwise,
Correct.
I would have.
Correct. Tell me.
The question is, a UK citizen is having shares of old Reliance Industries Limited. Then the company is divided into 4 companies and 1 share in the Reliance Industry. He will get 4 shares. Now he is selling the shares and invest through portfolio. That shares were invested through portfolio management scheme. Now part of the shares have already been sold. How to compute tax? How to compute
the cost of acquisition? You have to determine. The cost of acquisition of the previous will be allocated to this. That's all. The cost of acquisition of share will be allocated to this. Then you know that now it is listed company. There is no question of any indexation. You have to deduct 31st January price you can take.
So the next question is also a good question. So they're saying as per 112, if the foreign company is having shares of Indian companies, then they will be allowed to pay tax at the rate of 10% without indexation. If there was
unlisted share only.
Sorry. Unlisted shares only. Otherwise, now there is first proviso to section 48 also, which allows conversion and take the benefit of the foreign fluctuation. So whether
Proviso 1 and Proviso 248 is not applicable when you go for this.
The question is the option available to that non-resident to either opt for Proviso 48 or 112, or 112 is mandatory?
What is Proviso 1 and Proviso 2? Proviso 1 talks about that if there is a non-resident who has shares or debentures in Indian company, he will not be allowed to take the benefit of indexation, but he will have to convert his purchase and sale price in the currency in which he originally bought that share. That is the fluctuation point. And the capital gain will be computed by converting into foreign currency, and after computing the capital gain, it will be converted into Indian currency at TT buying rate. Remember, that is the point, TT buying rate. At that time, when you go for clause capital gain under Proviso 1, then you cannot take the benefit of any other take. You have already taken the fluctuation benefit. I think when they said 10%, they have used the word that indexation will not be allowed.
Yes. So it is not 10% without indexation. Next.
But it is not an indexation. It is a fluctuation. Yes. So the indexation is a Proviso 2. I'll have to check up whether Proviso 1 is applicable or not. We'll have to check up. If the Proviso 1 is not written, then they can benefit, take the benefit of conversion into that currency. Because in the case of their proviso 2 is not applicable. But since they have said indexation will not be allowed, according to me, then the proviso 1 should not be allowed. When you are paying indexation not allowed 10%, then in that case means proviso 1 is not applicable.
The next question. So there was a question on GoDaddy.com that we will cover in royalty. There is a question on FCRA that we will not take up here. Mr. Mandeep Singh can take up separately with me. Sir, can you discuss about Indian concern given under section 115A, subsection 1, clause B?
I told you clause B is where the total income of a non-resident other than a foreign company or a foreign company includes income by way of a royalty or fee for technical services. The rate of tax will be 10%. यही तो है वो 115A clause B. यही तो है. What is this? Is clause B. And no return to be filed if you have already deducted TDS, now new rule. And you don't have any other income. Otherwise, return to be filed. Now everybody is exhausted. Sangam is saying, by the way, why this is not, now we are not completing it. Now you become a little impatient. Huh?
Still we have to close.
Okay, you continue. I have no problem. I have no problem. You keep asking.
Sir, I think we have covered all the queries because.
Told you, moderator is also tired, my dear.
Sir, why?
You have to read quite a lot, each chat you have to read. It is very, very cumbersome. It is really very difficult.
Sir, while you are delivering the session, I have already answered 91 queries.
Okay. On the chat only?
Yeah, on the chat only I can answer the
Very
queries.
good, sir, very good.
Those who are smaller queries and those who are one-to-one queries, I have already answered. Only
Very good.
those queries which is for the benefit of all the people.
Okay,
So I
good.
think there is Nidhi Sharma who is she is saying ki take up my query. So Nidhi ji, we have already taken up your query. Nidhi is saying that a person who is a citizen of India have dividend income from India and he also have income from foreign sources and dividend income is exceeding 15 lakh rupees. So she is saying
He is not liable to pay tax outside India.
No. That other income is not liable to pay tax outside India. So now she's saying whether dividend income is taxable in India, there is no doubt. Whether the foreign source income, which is not liable to be liable to pay tax in India, whether that.
I told you deemed resident, and once you are deemed resident, foreign income not taxable, unless that income is from a business which is controlled from India or a profession which is set up in India. Why are we talking about any other income? Only a business which is outside India, controlled from India, profession outside India, set up in India. Otherwise, no other foreign income be taken. No other foreign income be taxed because he becomes not ordinary resident by becoming a deemed resident.
Okay. So now I am receiving many queries from people that my query not taken, etc. So let me tell you, sir, your query have already been covered in the major query. Still, if you feel that some query is not being taken, please write it to us or give me a WhatsApp on my number. We will reply it. But when there was an overlap of the queries, so I have taken the bigger query, not the lesser queries, because
you have not spoken his name.
Sir, today I have not spoken anybody's name.
No, you should not take name. Hey, you have named in the beginning. So no, don't take anybody's name.
Yeah. So that's why. So there are certain queries with respect to withholding tax, 15 CACV, that we will take up in the last session. We have a withholding tax and 15 CACV session. Then there are 5-6 people who have asked about equalization levy. So provisions about equalization levy, I think, and there are some people who have asked about the question of e-commerce taxation. I think we will take up a separate session of equalization levy and e-commerce taxation.
No problem. You want, I can finish in 2 minutes.
Please, sir, please.
In the case of equalization levy, first is already there 6% in case of advertisement of the foreign portal and all that. The new which has come, that there is an e-commerce operator who's outside. Now you want to pay money to that e-commerce operator. Tell all Google or anything, e-commerce operator supplying goods, Amazon outside India, or many other e-commerce operators. if you are getting anything from them, now you, if the amount exceeds 1 lakh in a year, 2% a levy has to be paid, deposited by me. Either I deduct from his or we have to gross it up. By grossing up 2%, I pay from my pocket. Now all e-commerce operator, now in their case, the person who is a resident in India who makes payment to e-commerce operator exceeding of course 1 lakh, please note that e-commerce, he will have to deduct tax at the rate of 2% with effect from 1st April 2020. To 2020, that TDS will be equalization levy. It's not TDS. It is equalization levy. Instead of 6%, here it is 2% for supply of goods or supply of services also. Goods and services, 2% will be the equalization levy in that. This is summing up. Rest, the detail you can take up when it comes next for
I think,
discussion.
sir, one clarification is required. There are many people who are asking this, that by virtue of section 6(1)(a), if a person is deemed to be resident in India, whether the residential status of ordinary resident and not ordinary resident has to be looked into, or just because of 6(1)(a), they become...
Oh, no, 6 says that if he is deemed resident, he will become not ordinary resident always. Section 6, they have included in section 6 in not ordinary resident. A person who is a deemed resident will always be not ordinary resident. He can't be resident and ordinary resident. He will always be not ordinary resident. That is the beauty of this law.
Sir, another question is also good question. Sir, they are saying a foreign company is having capital gain income in India, and TDS on that capital gain have already been withheld. Whether foreign company is liable to file return of income in India?
Certainly.
So
For capital gain there is only for royalty, fee for technical service and interest. There is no need to file return. But otherwise return has to be filed by all.
Sir, there is one person who is saying equalization levy is to be paid by e-commerce operator, not by the e-commerce party.
Sir, you have to, while making a payment, you deduct 2%. Or if you are not able to deduct, then you will have to gross up and pay from your pocket. 2% deducted, this is deduction. While making payment, suppose you have to pay 1 crore, deduct 2% from there, pay him 98 lakh.
No, I think he have amended the query. So there was a confusion between 2% and 6%. You have discussed only about 2%, not about the 6% equalization levy. That
Advertisement 6%.
So I think he is confused about that. So can I, if you allow me, can I clarify this?
Please do that.
Whenever we are making payment for the advertisement on a e-commerce platform, it will be 6% equalization levy that was levied by Finance Act 2016. But as per the new provision which have just been incorporated by Finance Act 2020, this 2% is on e-commerce services, goods and services. So
Other than this advertisement.
So if it is for advertisement, then 6%. Other than advertisement, then it will be 2%. And in both the cases, the liability to pay is on the non-resident, but normally these non-resident companies do not pay. So there was a responsibility which is posted on the payer that they have to withhold this 6% or 2%, which they never accepted. So it is going out of their own pocket. And if you do not withhold that 6% or 2%, the expenditure also becomes disallowed. So it is indirectly on the Indian payer itself.
Correct.
So,
Sanjay, I request you, it's 26.
अब तो कर दो क्लोज यार, 2 घंटे तो हमने ले लिए, मेरे ज्यादा ले लिए, 2.25 घंटे ले लिए, और उसके पहले भी मैंने 1.5 घंटा बोला है लगातार. Now 3 hours 45 minutes on the.
I think सर गुलाटी साहब का एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन ले लेते हैं.
लीजिए. बैठे हुए तो उनको तो पहले लेना चाहिए था.
तो सर अगर आप
Yes, I can hear you.
First of all, sir,
I can't see what I can hear.
Sir, thanks a lot to the organizers that they have set up all this training session for us. sitting at home. And sir, I don't know whether you remember or not, in 2000, way back 2006, sir, I was range head in Faridabad, and then Kalyan sir was also there. And
I know. I went there and delivered
Yes.
lecture also. These days he's in
Yeah,
Gurgaon,
yeah.
Commissioner Appeal.
Yes, yes, sir. So
Yes.
first of all, sir, really thanks a lot, sir, for
वेलकम ऑल सर जरा शक्ल तो दिखा दो जरा उनका ऑन कर दो हमारे फोटो जो दबा
अरे
दो
सर,
सर फोटो दबाओ ना
I'm there, sir. Am I now visible?
Yes, sir.
नहीं आई कांट सी यू अरे उधर उन्होंने कर रखा है प्लीज डू इट
कंट्रोल अविनाश के पास
कंट्रोल है
जी सर, कंट्रोल आपके पास है। वीडियो कंट्रोल आपके पास है।
अविनाश के मेरे पास
वीडियो का कंट्रोल मेंबर्स के पास है, जो कि मेंबर ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं।
मेंबर्स के पास है
No,
तो
I have done, sir.
ऊपर
I am-
already
कर दीजिए
वी कैन सी हिम सर।
दबाइए साथ में नीचे
नहीं सर, वी कैन
Sir,
Sir, we can see him.
we can see him. His video is displaying,
मेरे
sir.
को नजर नहीं आ रहे सर
सर वो आपके ना ऊपर वाले जो वीडियो की लाइन है उसमें लेफ्ट राइट करना पड़ेगा।
सुनो अविनाश जी, जब सतपाल जी बोलेंगे ना तो अपने आप उनकी स्क्रीन आ
हाँ
जाएगी।
बोलेंगे बोलेंगे तो आएगी यस यस आप हटो तो आएगी
Yeah. So, sir, basically, my sincere regards and gratitude, sir, that
आ गया
I got this opportunity to listen to you. And, sir, the way that energy, sir, I remember 2006, and now we are in 2020. And I wish and I pray to the God, sir, that this energy.
This is
will
all
continue
from
forever,
audience.
sir.
I get the energy from audience. Let me tell
Maybe,
you.
sir.
I'm at,
Thank you so much.
I'm at 74 now. I'm
Yeah.
74.
God
वो
bless
तो
you,
पता
sir.
लग जाएगा
and-
गाड़ी रख ली तो पता ही नहीं लगता
True, sir, true.
We have,
But
we have 1642 people viewing you live now.
थैंक यू
yeah,
अभी
that's
अभी
great. And of interest which the audience is also taking, sir. So
Correct,
really,
sir.
great.
Sir, if you are taking interest, so that we can always be. So we are supposed to know that. But
But as far as
a person who is already having the knowledge is
No.
also attending the program. So
No.
what else we want, you know?
sir, when we are before you, we are like.
Sir, you
nothing.
are always welcome. Always welcome,
No.
sir. Always welcome.
So nice. And sir, one doubt, sir, if you can clarify.
Please.
When we talk of 917B, where there is a payer in India and that business is outside India, for that payment is made. So taken a case of ONGC, which is in India, and they have a project running outside India, and they pay to a consultant for their project, which is outside India. How the treaty per se, how the act itself per se.
That says if you have taken services outside India, no, that is make available is a different thing. If you have taken a service
that's
outside
different.
India for to be used outside India, then of course
Right.
there is nothing. Because I told you that if you make a payment to a non-resident outside India for any royalty or fee for technical services, which is used outside India, which is also used outside India, then it is not deemed to accrue or rise in India. But since the ONGC is accruer, since this is for non-resident, it will not be taxable in India because it's rendering there outside India, and he is given that you are going to use it only outside India. You are not using that in India.
1 point. sir,
What is your
only
opinion,
there.
Avinash, about
Understood
this?
that. No, one point, sir, which I would like maybe from you to listen to, that here the basis of taxation, as far as our act is concerned, it basically lays emphasis on the payer where payer is situated. So the
No, sir.
payer,
I have,
when it is
suppose
situated
I am in
here,
India.
then
Sir,
it
suppose
is
I am
only
in
to the
India.
extent-
I have taken loan from UK and I'm investing in, let's say, Singapore. I may be a resident in India. The interest which I am paying to non-resident, I'm using that for carrying on my business and profession outside India. And that business income may be taxed in India, that is a different thing. But
No, sir,
TDS
here
is a different thing.
Yeah, 1 second, sir. When you use the word business and profession carried out outside India, now what does this mean? Is it only, let's say, one function of the total business you have conducted outside? Say you did only one particular study outside India, but the rest of the business is in India. So that's
No,
only a
exactly.
fraction.
If that information is going on royalty, the information whatever is used in India, there is no problem. Then it is to be deducted, but not for it. It is quite possible that I have a branch there. But if the branch is there, I have paid the tax, I will be allowed deduction of the interest paid. But this gentleman has rendered services outside India and it is used also outside India. If it is used in India, we have no problem. Whether that person may not be having any business connection in India, any place of residence in India, anything in India, but at least it is used in India. No? But if it is used outside India, then in that case, that income may be taxed in my hand of being branched there, but according to me, that it is outside India, and